That was this morning. Now we have 2 subjects left. Yes?
Regarding the Bhagavad Parampara, starting from Lord Chaitanya down to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, most or all of their Manjari identities are known. Why is Srila Prabhupada's, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's identity being kept confidential?
I can't say. Every time we asked Srila Gurudev, he said, do bhajan and then you'll know. But we know Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj's and we know Srila Gurudev's. But somehow or other he said, do bhajan and then you'll know. One thing that he told us is that Prabhupada is a chokidar at Swananda Sukada Kunj. What kind of chokidar? Like them, like those 4 manjaris. And so, just in case Krishna comes late, then those chokidar manjaris, like Rupa Manjari, Rati Manjari, they'll say, hold on, before you can come in, we have to ask you where you've been. And then he makes up some story, and then they said, great, you can just go right back where you came from, because we're not having any black snakes coming into our Swamini's kunj. And then Krishna has to fall down at their feet, and then they show him compassion and take his hand, pick him up, and take him and bring him to the feet of Srimati Radhika. Yes?
When Suviti Didi was here, she mentioned that Srila Gurudev said that Srila Prabhupada was Chota Vilasa Manjari. And I went to Srila Gurudev in front of Seva Kunj in Guru Sanatan, and this is before Suvita Didi said. And I said, oh, I've heard a rumor that you said Srila Prabhupada's Manjari form was Vilasa Manjari. And he looked at me and he said, why not? And I said, what is his service? And he said, oh, just like Rupa Manjari, slightly different. And then I came back the next day to ask more questions, and he said, no more. Prabhupada will reveal everything when you're qualified. So then I spoke to Bhagavat Maharaj, and he said, no. Prabhupada is not Vilasa Manjari. He's another Manjari. This is what somebody else said, Prabhupada said. And he said also Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. So there's no clear answer.
And even if we have a clear answer, it doesn't do anything to our Krishna consciousness. It's just intellectual gyan. And it doesn't affect us until we actually follow his instructions in sadhana bhajan. And then it has some meaning. When I first presented the paintings of the first 2 manjaris to Srila Gurudev, he said, when you really see them, you'll faint. And then in Badger, looking at the photos, he said, when I look at the photos, I see so many defects. But when I look at the same thing in my heart, I see no defects. So then today, 2 subjects remain. One is finishing what we began yesterday, which is the discussion of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami's Vilapakus Manjali. And also, a few devotees requested that we speak about Srila Gurudev's words on responsibility and unity in being able to establish Srila Gurudev's mission. He's everywhere, as we've discussed so many times. He's present in his books, in his instructions, in the Gayatri mantras, in the holy name, in our hearts, and in every atom. But to make him actually feel present everywhere in all's hearts takes our preaching. Or, as Prabhupada used to say, if you do it, you'll get the credit, and if you don't, somebody else will. And as Srila Gurudev himself foretold, when Vachitri Didi said to him, "I've been reading your Brahma Samhita and it's so beautiful." And Gurudev said, "Yes, there will come the day, not now but after I leave, when people will appreciate the value of my books." So I'll start with a sense of responsibility. And I'm sharing a lecture that Srila Gurudev gave in 2004 in Vrindavan in India. He said, "You've come from all over the world to be here in Braj Mandala Parikrama. What responsibility are you taking? If you don't take responsibility for your Gurudev's instructions and mission..." Thank you for clapping that by wearing this garland, I'm collecting Sukritis so that in some future birth I may become a devotee. So Gurudev said, if you don't accept responsibility for your Gurudev's mission, then you're no better than a two-legged animal. He said, on the other hand, if you, by accepting responsibility for your Gurudev's mission, even an animal can become a human being. He said, I accepted so much responsibility for my Gurudev. I would publish the Bhagavad Patrika every month. I would do the cooking. I would clean. I would preach in the temple. I would go home to home and have house programs. I would write articles and I would publish books. So I accepted so much responsibility. He said Narada Muni had one disciple named Valmiki who strictly followed his Gurudev's instructions. Although he was Dakite before, and he used to, there are different stories of how he came to Narada, but one of them that Gurudev told is that he was a dacoit, and he used to kill brahmanas. And for every brahmana he killed, he would take their brahman thread and throw that in a well, and he had a whole well full of brahman thread. So now he saw Narada, and he was thinking, yes, I'll kill him too. So he was approaching Narada, and Narada went like this and said, stop. And he stopped, and he didn't know why he stopped. Then he understood by that power that he's no ordinary human being. So he took shelter of him, and Narada told him to chant Ram. But he couldn't because he didn't have the Sukritis, he was so sinful. So Narada said, okay, then chant Mara, meaning death, because he was so absorbed in death and murders. So he chanted Maram, 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 and it became Ram. And his Gurudev told him, just chant, don't do anything else, don't even go to the bathroom, don't eat or sleep, just chant. And he did that. And he did that for thousands of years. Didn't even go to the bathroom. And gradually, an anthill came around him and ate all of his skin and flesh, and he was maintaining his life only in his bones. And then Lord Brahma came and sprinkled some celestial water on him and made him all right again, and then gave him the blessings. Now you have become perfect. Now you can write the Ramayana to purify the whole world. So Gurudev said, this is another example of responsibility. Another responsibility person is Ramanujacharya had a disciple who knew all the scriptures, but he was very puffed up that he knew everything. So his Gurudev thought, I have to do an operation on him so that he becomes qualified to preach my mission. So he had one young lady disciple who knew him since she was very young. And now her parents got her married, and she went to her Gurudev, Ramanujacharya, and said, Gurudev, I'm suffering so much. my in-laws are making me carry these big buckets of water for 2 miles up a hill, do everybody's laundry, and I'm just suffering. Can't you give me some assistance? So Ramanujacharya thought, yes, this is the perfect opportunity for my operation. So he sent this puffed up disciple to become the servant of his lady disciple. And he did it. Gurudev said, if I were to give any of you that service, then you send all emails around saying, bogus guru. So he was doing all those menial services. They didn't even give him soap. He was getting a straggly beard, and his clothes were all worn and torn and dirty. But he kept doing it because it was his Gurudev's order.